All right, so today is our first roles type episode where we're sitting down with guests, and we got Paul from Dark Arts Jiu Jitsu. We're going to talk some martial arts, specifically Jiu Jitsu, since he is a black belt. We're going to talk some music, some injuries, and just see what happens. So bear with the technical difficulties if there are any. So Paul, black belt Jiu Jitsu.
Black belt up under Philippe Gentry at a Straight Blast gym in Atlanta. I've been doing jiu-jitsu for over 15 years now, and I'm a new black belt. I received my black belt and not too long ago, about a month ago. So still training, still enjoying jiu-jitsu after all this time. Just had my gauntlet and just about to start back training after surgery, so really looking forward to getting back on the mats.
Yes, because it's been a couple weeks now since your surgery. How has that been? Like going from training almost every day to not being able to train?
It really hurt my feelings when the doctor said, or the surgeon said, hey, probably doing jiu-jitsu for the next 6 weeks, probably not a great idea. Really kind of hurt my feelings being on a 20 pound profile and not being able to move too great in a matter of a day. So it's been working on other things, mindset, nutrition, those kind of things, which is what I needed probably more than anything. So just kind of really looking forward to drilling and training again. Been watching a lot of instructionals, kind of making a glide path for getting back into jiu-jitsu, and I'm really, really excited about it. Looking forward to next week. I can start drilling again, so I'll be definitely drilling and looking forward to continuing my path in jiu-jitsu.
Yes, because the ADCC trials is here in December, and I know several of us that we all train together are going to compete, so that'll be a good prime opportunity to start drilling without the risk of injury, because we can be selective with who we train with.
I think the more that jiu-jitsu evolves, that's one of the prime pieces I've taken away after this journey is becoming more selective with my training partners, just knowing sometimes it's probably not good for me to go roll with a 355-pound college wrestler that's really aggressive and just starting out. Maybe let him chill out for, beat up on other young studs while I pick better training partners that we make each other better, and it's not a one-sided festivity of me getting beat up.
Moving on to that, we have our own dojo where we blast a shitload of metal. For the most part, it's either your list or my list, one of the two playing. So let's talk about that. Like, what's the latest thing you've been listening to?
So I've been going back through and listening to full albums when around 2002, 2003, when I started really getting heavy into training. Thrice had just released Artist in the Ambulance, and I hyperfixated on 2 or 3 songs that got me kind of pumped. And then ever since then, I would go pick maybe a song off of an album. So I've been going back through. I just started with Kill Switch Engaged. I'm going back through and listening to an entire albums, how they were meant to be listened to from front to back. And I kind of enjoy this, like, it's almost like listening to these albums all over again, of not just picking a song or two, but I like going through and listening to the full album and seeing how they have it arranged. So as far as the whole album, I understand like why they have some softer songs, palate cleansers in the middle of it, and it's really kind of adding to my depth of knowledge in that. And I kind of, the more we discuss, the backgrounds of like what was going on with that band during that time, who's getting fired, who's getting hired, what they're going through in their personal lives. You can see it reflect in their music. It's kind of helped me with my path of recovery, is like listening to it and really focusing on the lyrics to songs really kind of helped. I think with the mindset part of being like, hey, I really like this song for this reason. Now that like I'm recovering, like I know what it is, like the song about rebirth or like growing or something like that. I think that's why metal music specifically is a powerhouse for that kind of stuff.
Killswitch particularly is like most of their songs have some type of uplifting message like that within them, of recovery, rebirth, whatever the case may be. And then from their first album with Jesse through the Howard years, and then back to like their latest album that just came out this year, it's all super heavy, but also very uplifting. And like if you actually listen to them, they have a message that connects with most people.
Mm-hmm. I've just made it up to about the mid 2000 or the beginning 2000, but I'm at As Daylight Dies. I think that came out in 2006 maybe. So I'm about 10 years behind, 15 years behind everyone else's music. If you don't know and you're listening, John has curated most of my really awesome playlists and probably knows more about local North Carolina metal and metal in general than anybody I know. Every time I think that I have like a stump the chump, like random metal fact, John comes out of nowhere and teaches me something new or shows me a new band that kind of distracts me of my journey of listening to albums all the way through. So that's why I'm in 2005, 2006 with my metal journey.
Like North Carolina, especially in the early, like 2000 to, I'll say 2004, because that's when I went in the Army. But from then, especially in like Winston, there were so many venues and so many bands that you could just pick a show almost every night and go see. Like between the Buried Me, when they had the Silent Circus and just their self-titled, like they were playing like once a month. You go see them, whoever, like saw All That Remains, Dying Fetus, and Guar in one show. So like that was the standard of like shows back then. Like just pick a band and you could probably go see them.
Yeah, growing up in Atlanta, you had to make very specific trips to see specific bands. Most of mine were especially like local bands, Seven Dust, a few other like random bands at the Masquerade, but it was you had to choose to go to town for that specific thing and had to fight other people for tickets to get it when you would go stand in line at Ticketmaster to get tickets. So not as much access in Atlanta. Now the metal scene down there is blowing up. I have friends down there in bands and they play almost every weekend. And back in the day, there wasn't, that many bands.
Yeah, it's I haven't been to an actual show in a hot minute. I think the last show I've been to was like Lucero, which isn't metal at all, but they're still a really good band. The last metal show I've been to has probably been about 10 years ago, and it was Cannibal Corpse. Saw them in Winston. Who I can't remember who else played with them. But that was like the last actual metal show I've been to.
I went to Tool quite a few years ago, and that was probably my last one. It's been a long time. I was supposed to go see Thrice recently in Atlanta, but I decided to have surgery instead, so I missed out on that, and I'm forever going to be bummed about that. Hoping maybe they'll come somewhere close so I can go see them soon, but there's no telling. Haven't looked at their schedule. I've been focused on other things, but I think hopefully in the near future somebody will come to Raleigh and I'll go see them.
Yeah, Thrice is one of those bands that I've been listening to since Identity Crisis, but I've never had the opportunity to go actually see them. But they're one of the few bands that I would still go see now. Like I'm old, but I like being at the house. And, I don't like being out like super late. But they're one of the few bands that I would go see.
I would definitely go see them. I've just, along with listening to Kill Switch, started listening to a lot of Thrice because again, I got hung in the 2003 Artist in the Ambulance kind of release when we were still, downloading music illegally or passing it on mixtapes and only heard, or like mixed CDs, I guess I should say. So I've just now gone through and listened to a lot of their earlier stuff all the way through as far as albums go. And there are some fantastic songs that if you don't listen to an album all the way through, you're going to get caught on the first one or two really great songs and miss number 12, little TNC or some of the other songs that come later in albums.
Well, that and like the illusion of safety, you have everybody knows Deadbolt, everybody knows To Awake and Avenge the Dead, but there are some other awesome songs on there. In Years to Come is probably my favorite, which comes after Deadbolt, so like nobody really listens to it. Like little.
Is there an album in there after Deadbolt?
And so like it's a great song, but everybody really only picks like the one or two, like you said. Like nobody really listens to full albums anymore. That's the way to do it.
Yeah, it definitely changes. I think like listening to it in a place where you can it is a difficult thing. Most of us stick an AirPod in one ear and do some chores around the house, but to get like a decent set of headphones or to like sit in a car when you're on a long drive and crank it all the way up when you're not having to like drive through traffic, turn it down, turn it up, and actually dedicate the time to listen to these albums how they were meant to be listened to. I think that kind of like changes the experience. Is something that I won't listen to music now unless I can put both headphones in and train or do something like that, or get through like drilling or something like that and listen to it while we roll. I like listening to stuff like that. Metal needs to be listened to at a very specific volume, and I think some people mess that up or use a terrible speaker.
When it comes to like jiu-jitsu right now, what is your go-to for like bands to listen to? What is your, because we all go through like cycles or who we're listening to the most, but right now, like if we're going to go train, what's the first thing you're throwing on?
First thing I'm throwing on is probably I'm on a kick of Kill Switch Engage. I've been listening to it for about a week. Right now, that's what I need. I'm recovering from surgery, so it's just kind of more uplifting and stuff like that. So that's what I'm throwing on. It's probably Kill Switch. I'll always throw in some. Throwing some Thrice in there, but I've been going back to kind of like my metal roots, so to speak, of some of the first stuff I heard, like Shadows Fall, that kind of stuff. Some of those like more. It was the first time like I heard thrash metal in a way that like I really understood. If you consider some of those, some of the guitar riffs in there are definitely thrash, where I was like, oh, okay, there's something going on. And I came from like a very much more so. From the metal side, it came from a more guitar-based side, whereas like Yngwie Malmsteen, Steve Vai, Joe Satriani, because he was a guitarist, and then kind of transitioned over to the darker side of things. So it was the first time I saw people like really throw down on a guitar inside, like on the metal side.
Yeah, Shadows Fall, Crushing Belial is probably my favorite song by them. It's really good. I cannot remember the album name off the top of my head, but that's probably my favorite Shadows Fall song. And like if I'm make like the playlist I made for the dojo, it's got a lot of that, a lot of Shadows Fall, a lot of All That Remains, Kill Switch, Thrice, and then I'll sprinkle in some of the heavier stuff because I know a lot of people don't necessarily like just straight up death metal or deathcore. So I do a lot of more metalcore. And then I'll sprinkle in onesies and twosies here and there.
Yeah.
Just for heavier effect, because nothing beats like hearing a sick breakdown like while you're rolling.
Yeah.
Gives you that extra like power of Gray Skull.
you have to be careful about, speaking of like training partners, you have to be careful about what tunes you throw on. I probably wouldn't throw some of these on unless all my training partners were heavily vetted. Sometimes people get a little bit of that, hear a little bit of the metal and it'll transpose into how they're trying to roll, and all of a sudden they're trying to kill you. So, always vet your training partners when you're playing some heavy metal, because some guys take it as a call to war, and all of a sudden they're turning into a Viking mid-roll and trying to slam your head up against the mat or something. So definitely be careful.
Well, depending on who's in there too, like one in particular likes the doom type metal, and like that, we'll throw that on. It's okay. I like a little bit of doom, and it's a little slower, so it's not bad to roll with, but it's not my go-to.
Occasionally I like it when there's like palette cleansers built in, like 80s synth occasionally, where it's like a random song, just like once you get going and you have like a couple things, get it in there, just something to like really vibe to like really solidify a training session. I think sometimes that works really well for especially drilling and stuff like that, where it's kind of like the repetition, the when you're trying to make something second nature, or like a movement in jiu-jitsu that's foreign, or you're trying to like clean up a sequence in there, is like having that right music to go to. I like repetition, especially like instrumentals a lot of times for rolling, because sometimes my brain power can't listen to lyrics. So I like era, those kind of like instrumentals that are repetitive in nature really help whatever that gear is in my brain to turn off, so I can just like kind of absorb the movement.
Yeah, like I've been listening to it. My taste, it depends on what I'm doing. Like if I'm driving, I'll just throw everything on shuffle. If I'm out on the trails running, I'm probably listening to some type of like 80s synth style, like something chill. If we're in the dojo or lifting, then it's probably something pretty heavy. But like you said, it can get you overly amped up, and
I think you have to be careful about whether you're in the parasympathetic or sympathetic zone, and depending on what you're trying to do. Like right now, a lot of mine is I'm trying to focus on recovery, so a lot of mine is like a little bit chill. This morning when I was working out, I was definitely in a chill space, and then I was trying to like adjust back down. And I think that's important for recovery, is having different music for different mindsets and stuff like that. It's like now I'm trying to fully recover. I'm probably like more on the technical side, and like really listening to the guitar and stuff like that. Soon, once I get in, once we do this train up for ADCC, like towards the end of it, I'll be probably like on the harder side of things once like I'm recovered, and we'll be pushing it a little bit further and having to like kind of like key into that music, or the whatever that music's putting out, to really encapsulate that in my body. I think sometimes our bodies are more aware, especially our ears, and we can pull a little bit extra out of our bodies. It's why music's so important.
You also fought Muay Thai professionally?
I did.
And so being a separate art, striking, you listen to like the same type stuff?
No, so I would like training on my own, but generally a lot of the people that train that did not listen to that style of music. That is like kind of like a grapple art specific thing. If you try to listen to the same music and you're sparring with that, like some guys will definitely see in the red, and it turns into all out war. I would listen to more like kind of like prog, like very technical prog metal during that time. Maybe occasionally I would get away with throwing like a little bit of Testament or something in a playlist, but a lot of the guys who were training at that time, especially like the higher levels of Muay Thai, and everything were not listening to that, nor would they put up with it. Nobody knew how to train back then either. So every sparring session was already like gonna cause some CTE anyway, almost, if you weren't careful. So it was a little bit different of a vibe.
What do you think, seeing Muay Thai at the professional level and being a black belt in Jiu-Jitsu, what are the difference in personalities of like somebody that wants to train but they don't necessarily know what they want to train? Like what should they expect like walking into a Muay Thai gym or versus going to like a trial class? Like what differences?
I think sometimes depending, like Muay Thai is a little bit still, it's getting better now, but it was a little bit more of the Wild West as far as training. You were kind of like subject to either like some gyms were very like hard nosed, like there wasn't like a level for progression or anything like that. Now gyms are doing a lot better at being like, hey, this is where you're at, this is what you're allowed to do. I think jiu-jitsu is more systematic, and for some people's brains, it works a lot better without maybe say the physical toll that Muay Thai is. When I started Muay Thai, it was, the first week it was like, hey, here's like the US like IKF champ, go spar him. It was a little bit more of like the Wild West, and had I not have the grit that I have, I would have quit week one. I had no idea what was going on, and like I said, like I think all this, like even jiu-jitsu, is all about finding like a good training environment, good training partners. And if it doesn't work for you, like there's some like really great gyms around Fayetteville. There's some of them that I know that I wouldn't fit in at personality wise and or training methodology wise, so I won't go there. It's not that I wouldn't recommend it to some people, but I think just being aware of that. And I think it's harder to find like a good Muay Thai gym. Like the closest one I know to here is like Lake Norman, like truly dedicated to, where they have a great understanding of it.
Let's talk about Dark Arts and kind of from why you started it to what it's morphing into now.
So Dark Arts started in originally in Afghanistan, last deployment during COVID timeframe. You weren't allowed to train jiu-jitsu, no physical contact, that kind of thing. So I was obviously training with a bunch of really great guys there. I was fortunate enough to have great training partners. I couldn't at work say like, oh, I'm going to go train jiu-jitsu and actually touch other human beings. So I would say like, hey, I'm going to go do the Dark Arts. So it became like kind of this thing. And I have always been into art, and it just ended up being this thing where I'd like draw logos or something like that. I drew the little skeleton guy logo while I was still like sketched on a piece of paper, like in Afghanistan. It was like, I want to do this. And me and Nelson, a guy that I worked with there, were like, we should start this thing up. And then so we started Dark Arts. Is kind of like not really like a ode to anything, but like kind of developing a training culture. And it's been one of those things. It's part art where I enjoy drawing stuff that ends up on clothes, and I enjoy seeing it out and about. I still do. Like I get pumped when I go somewhere and I see like a Dark Arts hoodie or one of my friends wearing it, and it was more about that whole process. I've really, really enjoyed like taking art, albeit some of it maybe, subpar. It's still been like my journey and like a fun thing to do, and find like hats or rash guards or something like that. And a lot of the stuff, like if I meet someone who doesn't have a rash guard and they're still wearing like an Under Armour, like long sleeve, like moisture wicking shirt or something, they don't have a rash guard, I will give you a rash guard. Just so you have something to train with. Like for me, it's about promoting a training culture, kind of like an antecedent to some of these places where guys push their gear but don't really train or don't really support like a training culture. I just want guys to be able to train, and I get to do art during the meantime and make fun of people online who aren't really training. And like I want people, like I will travel to where you are and I will go to a jiu-jitsu class with you. Given like if you're too afraid to go train, like I'll come hold your hand and we'll go in together and get like find the right gym for you. Like I wanted something to promote. One, art is good for you and it's good for your brain. It's different than anything else. That's kind of how that got started, and we'll continue to do, hopefully dropping some new stuff this fall while it's still cold. I'm waiting on some samples to come in, and we'll see where it goes. It may just be my place where I document my own recovery, and it may be a place that actually like sell some merch again if I feel like it. But
Yeah, 'cause you went from the skeleton man with the PUS 15s to now it's skeleton man with the crown.
I'm evolving slowly. Part of that's just like wanting to nominate a new jiu-jitsu king out there. I kind of want him to evolve a little bit as I evolve, going through. And I think especially during like recovery and stuff like that, for a while, like I got so like seeing all the jiu-jitsu pages and all the gritty training stuff, like I kind of wanted to kind of rebel against it. I've seen like all these people go out and be like, oh, you can only train if you train really tough, and like every practice got to be like, do or die. Like sometimes it's okay to come like go in and just have like a good training session and be chill and like not break everything in your body. Like sometimes it's good to like approach it systematically and be like, hey, here's my progress for the month. I'm going to spend 4 weeks working on like the same half guard move, and it's not always like a linear trajectory straight up. And I think that was kind of like a reflection of a lot of what was going on with I think the jiu-jitsu community is just realizing, like we're all here trying to play like a sport. Nobody's better than anybody else. If you are better than everybody else, and eventually someone's going to come along that's better than you, kind of embracing that memento mori. It's what everybody goes like, oh, you're going to die. And I really like answering that with memento vivere, like, yes, you will die, but remember to live.
Speaking of progress, now that you are a black belt and you've made it there, where do you see like the other belts? Like you have like the IBJJF where you have to be a blue belt for 2 years. Like what is Paul's criteria for like blue belt, purple belt, brown belt?
I think there's definitely skills that should be obtained at each level, but there's a lot of black belts that can be beat up by blue belts, especially your college wrestler types who have already spent 19, 20 years doing a grappling sport, and then go in and do like a black belt. I think the further that you get into the subculture of it, you should have at your white belt, right, you're just a white belt, you don't really know that much. By blue belt, you should be at least like mentoring some of those white belts and being a good steward of the profession. I think at each level, like you should develop skills. Like blue belt, like you should learn how to defend and know every position and be able to explain to the white belt, like, hey, like don't put your like arm out when you're in side control because the big man's gonna snatch that thing up. So keep it. You should be able to explain basic defenses. Purple belt, I feel like you should have like you're kind of starting to understand those defenses and kind of turn them into offenses. Brown belt, it should be pretty fluid, and you should have like a fair amount of I would say like stand-up grappling. Like you should be either doing judo or you should be doing wrestling to a degree at brown belt, and by the end of brown belt you should definitely have those. But along with that should be your impact to the sport as a whole. Like you should, as a brown belt, not be afraid to go roll with any white belt on the mat And you should also like make sure that you're being a good steward of it. I've seen too many times where like brown belt and black belts kind of get exclusive and they don't want to roll with, the white belt. And I totally understand it at some degree, but you should also be able to go and be a good steward of the sport and either line people up so they have good roles, or be the one that like steps in when the new white belt's getting bullied and be like, hey, new 140 pound white belt who's never touched a weight in his life, you probably shouldn't roll with a 250 pound like college wrestler who's going to maul you every time because you're going to quit jiu-jitsu on your way home. I think you should start like having a bigger impact. A lot of black belts that I meet and look up to, they've done so much good for the jiu-jitsu community and are just excellent stewards of the profession. That's something that I want to emulate to be, is like get more people training, and create like my future training partners so I can roll as long as possible. I've decided that I will quit jiu-jitsu when I'm 178 years old. So I have to make it till then, and part of that is like creating your own training partners.
Basically your own tribe.
Yeah, you have to create your own tribe and realize when some people probably shouldn't be in it, and and that comes like with each belt. And I'm learning. I've seen really great black belts, and I'm still trying to emulate all the great black belts and kind of make my own path as that goes.
All right, well, I think that's time for today. Thank you for being the guinea pig in this whole process, and of seeing how of figuring out the whole format and how these guest talks are going to go. So much appreciative.
No, thank you for having me. More about especially metal music and a lot of that. You've been a fantastic training partner. I'm glad to be here on like the first interview series. You're a fantastic training partner and an excellent friend. Definitely helped me during recovery and stuff like that. And looking forward to starting to drill next week and get back in the swing of things.
All right. Well, thank you. And thanks y'all for listening.